You a Red Congo guy?
You know what's funny? I've never seen it. I saw the release. I really wanted to get in, and just we left California, and I never was never able to. So yes, please. That's the
Okay, nice. Slide into my DMs. We'll talk through that one.
totally. Well, welcome to Cannabis Matters. I'm Eric Rosen, your host, and I'm here today with Max Rudsten of POSIBL. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good. Always good to see you, man. Always a pleasure. So tell us about your background. I'm curious how your experience as a co-founder in the past and has sort of led you to this role at POSIBL, where you lead commercial strategy around brand partnerships.
Well, I started my career in a more corporate way. So I majored in finance. What I thought I had to do after school was get into Wall Street, which I never really fully connected with. But that's what I felt like I had to do because that was my major. And I did that for about 7 years, but always felt like I needed to create a business that I could, in essence, kind of hold in my hands. So in 2013, I decided to take the leap, pull the ripcord, and really get more entrepreneurial. That's where I got into the distilled spirits world. So I started a distilled spirits brand that I started to scale. And around that same time, that's when I got into cannabis. I had some buddies with some kind of family cultivation assets. They wanted to bring me in as a partner to kind of bring some business structure to what they were doing, and then help them build a brand around their dad, who was this like legacy dude who had started this hippie commune in Kauai, and he had grown weed in the jungles of Hawaii. And basically it was like this very utopian story that I wanted to tell as a guy that had been working for a corporate bank for like 7 years. So went on this really interesting parallel path of kind of building a brand and a business in a really regulated alcohol supply chain, doing the same in a really unregulated supply chain. And then as things were legalizing, in kind of closer to 2017, there was an opportunity to basically stand up a distribution business. And that's really where I got my teeth, cut in building a logistics business in a really fast growing new industry. So that really set me up for where I am today, because in essence, we were dealing with multiple brands. A lot of them failed, a lot of them succeeded, right? But I got really like a good 360 kind of peripheral view of what brands did well to succeed and what brands did poorly to fail. And that really set me up to come to POSIBL, given the supply chain knowledge and everything else I had gained along the way, and helping guide brands, bring brands to market in a way that sets them up for better success. So
It's brilliant. The cannabis industry, to your point, it is a knife fight in California and is equally crazy in different departments elsewhere. With your vantage point in previous gigs, specifically with respect to building brands, what are you seeing work well these days? Within cannabis, you can compare and contrast between the world of spirits and cannabis if you'd like, but what are people doing well right now?
Well, for me, it always comes down to quality of product, right? There's always needs to be a fierce focus on quality. I think we've kind of digressed in California to really to really focus on price point as a means to get on shelf. And in essence, that can take away from, I think, the true essence of what a good brand is, which is the quality of the product. And then with that, there needs to be, in my opinion, a really solid and scalable strategy for getting that brand onto the right shelves, going deeper with those shelves, but in the process being really authentic to that brand story and mission. I think too often in cannabis, given the margin compression, we've just been so focused on, again, like price point selling. But when you look at a brand that's like truly authentic and driving a really authentic mission forward, and then backing it up with a quality of product and then a strategy to get it into the right shops, those are the things when combined can really do well. But it also comes down to supply chain and making sure you have the right margins and the pricing structure. And too often people don't know their margins. They don't know their cost basis. And then they look at the books and they say, oh shoot, like this isn't the right channel for me to be in. So I think all those things together, create for just a better opportunity for the right brands.
And looking at that success criteria pie that you just described, how do you think about dividing it up for early brands with respect to people, process, and tools?
Yeah, big believer in those three things needing to be in really good harmony. When it comes to people, like I really look for building teams with that entrepreneurial spirit that I think I had mentioned earlier in my career. In cannabis, as you know better than anyone, we are building this new industry, right? So there's a lot of problems to solve. There's a lot of hats you have to wear. So you can't be siloed in your skill set, right? You really have to have a much broader perspective of how to build. And for me, when I'm building teams, it's about really finding folks that have that entrepreneurial spirit, can go after opportunities, come back with solutions, and really just drive and execute. And then having a tool set to then give you the visibility and in everything you're doing. I mean, tools to me is really the technology, right? It's everything that then gives you those that tool set to be able to execute and give and get the actionable insights to be able to grow more sustainably.
You mentioned people and tools, and when I think about what I call the balance barometer, it sort of covers both. And the balance barometer refers to, as a founder, as a leader, how do I think about the right mix for this cannabis company that I'm at today, with respect to legacy talent versus talent that's been imported from outside, because they've had experience with scaling businesses and seen a broader market landscape that is going to be critical for getting this cannabis company from, call it, third gear to fourth gear. So talk to me about your thinking on the balance barometer front at POSIBL these days.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you look at the balance barometer. When the industry first got going, right? This was 2018. There was this incredible flood of human capital that came into the industry, both actual capital and then human capital. And it was an exciting time because there was execs from CPG companies and people coming from alcohol and people coming from technology. They're all kind of flooding in with all these different perspectives, right? But then as things kind of got challenging, you started to see a little bit of an exodus of talent, right? And I think that harmony or that barometer that you kind of speak to kind of tipped the wrong way, and then you started losing good talent. I think where I've seen, again, the success in terms of like that barometer really being calibrated is around, having a passion for the plant. Like, honestly, like if you have all these otherworldly skills and business skills that you can bring to this industry, but then you overlay that with the passion for the plant, those are the most success stories in my opinion. And that's where you really see that barometer in a really good place. It's the folks who came into this thing for the big dollars, for the dollar signs falling out of trees, that you're starting to see leak back into maybe the old traditional industries, which frankly isn't all that great either right now. So I think it's passion, it's entrepreneurial spirit, and it's kind of really good holistic business perspective that create that good barometer.
Putting the consumer at the center of our locus of orientation, how are you and the company thinking about consumer preferences, trends, how to incorporate that data-driven insight into the way you're going to market?
Consumer-driven data insights are challenging in this industry. And I think that's a big solve that I think most brands would like to get figured out as this thing continues to scale. We are kind of beholden to the retail gatekeepers, right, to get our products onto shelves. There's a lack of more traditional marketing channels. I've seen a lot of success in brands being able to kind of latch on to maybe non-cannabis industry companies and do things like apparel collabs, right, in an exclusive way. I don't know if you know a brand called Fidel's. They're kind of a more traditional market brand that has worked their way into the traditional or into the legal market. They did a big collab with an apparel company called Carrots, right? And that was a really good way to kind of tap into the Carrots ecosystem and then funnel people back into the legal cannabis market to buy cannabis. So I think there's those types of strategies that I think are super important. Looking at non-cannabis goods as a way to market to a broader audience and drive traffic. But then going back to, I think, my original point earlier in the conversation, which is just being authentic and taking a grassroots approach to how you market to a community and a demographic within a specific region. So for instance, like we have a brand called Umo, which is a Latino focused brand. Over the holidays, we do these toy drives where we get the farm workers together, and we really drive this mission of trying to get toys in the hands of people that are less fortunate. So it's really about how can you align yourself with the right organizations, the right brands for collabs to really create this more kind of holistic offering to the market.
Double clicking on that to be able to attract the widest variety of collaborations externally, which is super smart. Tap into the mainstream wherever you can to get hooks and eyeballs and brand affinity. That's going to be only as effective as the team or teams that you build internally that are going to market to build those things. They're being on the lookout for it. So how are you thinking about just matching your talent strategy to your growth strategy in the marketplace today?
Yeah, it's a challenging one, and you bring up a great point, right? It's like if you do a collab, but you don't have the right team and the right process and the right strategy for actually maximizing that collab in a way that gets it into the eyes and ears of the most consumers possible, then you're not going to get the ROI, right? So it is about really making sure you're optimizing your strategy with the right people to be able to execute on these things. The honest truth is, like, in California, we all have to be really lean right now. And there's going to be a world and a time when more capital comes in, and we're going to be able to have, more margin to be able to go hire the right talent. But right now, it's really, how do we make most efficient use of the talent we have today? And that's really where we're at. We're lean and we're mean. And that goes back to the entrepreneurial kind of spirit that we try to harness here at POSIBL in the California cannabis industry in general. But it is really about figuring out, as we do scale, which we will, and the industry will scale, it's about making sure that you hire the right resource for the right thing at the right time. And right now, we're just still lean and mean and trying to execute as best we can with the team we have.
So when we're sitting here today, looking at consumer preferences for just like the next year, 2 years, 3 years, what are you seeing in terms of what consumers are most likely to be into? Is it cultivars with lower THC percentage, or older strains, or different ways of consuming extracts, or do you see beverages taking off? Like what do you see from a consumer trend standpoint that either you're building towards it possible, or you see another opportunity for elsewhere in the category?
Yeah, I think consumer preferences, I think it also comes down to this kind of gatekeeper mentality that we're still dealing through in California, right? We have a lack of retail. There's still large swaths of the California marketplace that have not allowed for cannabis retail, right? So you still, as a consumer, unless you are extraordinarily educated, are really only, you're only educated by the shops that are available to you, right? And I think that's unfortunate for the industry, because, as you know, again, better than anyone, like, we're dealing through like the potency thing where everyone's just going into a dispensary and wanting to buy like a 35% tester. You use the spirits analogy, like you're not going into a liquor store and buying Everclear because it's the highest ABV. Like, no one's doing that. So in my opinion, like, cannabis needs to become more ubiquitous for really, like, consumers to start driving trends. I think, it is a very, very highly taxed industry, right? So there's a lot of money that's being spent in the dispensaries, and people just don't really know what they don't know. This too, but like, as the market's evolved, live rosin, live resin products have become, way more, in vogue, as that has become more scalable. So I think what I'd love to see is, more of that, because it's the best way to consume the plant. From that perspective, I think beverages are massive, right? Even though they're a small part of the pie, they're going to continue to grow by demand. Drinking is such a social act. You can start to fold in like live resin, live rosin into beverages for that maximum effect. I think it's super interesting. There's minor cannabinoids, as you know, that are really interesting, like THCV. I know a lot of farms in California that shifted a lot of their production to THCV, which is, they quote unquote, like the caffeine of cannabis, right? It doesn't get you as high. It gives you a little bit more energy. So I think those are some interesting things that we can continue to explore. Yeah, and away from that, like we've been in a place that has somewhat stifled innovation lately because of what's going on in California, right? It's just it's tough to innovate when you don't have a lot of margin and a lot of capital. So my hope is when we come out the other side of this thing, we're going to start to see way more innovation. And with that, I think we'll see more retail and therefore more kind of consumer driven trends. But all the things I just mentioned are probably ones I'm going to be tracking. And then, as you know, like genetics, like really cool genetics. My hope is that, you know, we can easily go sell a cultivar to a store that's 16% THC and, you know, 6% terps, and people will like want to buy that for a premium price point, where we still got some ways to go. So
genetics, my favorite lane of discussion. I was excited to see premium genetics offered on the POSIBL site, and was curious, is that you referring to what you offer as a company, or being able to provide those white labeled and or, you know, breeding support for other companies?
Yeah, so POSIBL, right? We really built the engine here to fuel brands. So brands who don't want to spend millions of dollars setting up a large scale cultivation, and want to focus exclusively on telling their story and marketing it and selling it to the market, will work with us. We'll come up with a genetic plan, a harvest plan. You know, we'll create the SKUs with them. We'll price out the SKUs, and then we'll pick the genetics. So we go through extensive R&D with genetics. We always dedicate a certain percentage of our square footage to R&Ding new strains, and then we go through the kind of the vigorous testing of those strains to make sure they kind of are ready for the commercial production. So we work really closely with some exclusive breeders who trust us and trust our ability to scale their genetics in a way that allows them to be more commercialized. So, you know, Purple City Genetics is a great example of a group that we work really closely with. Oren and I, you know, we have a trust. He has a trust in us as a cultivation partner. And he, you know, will drop us stuff that maybe some other people don't get, right? And there's certain ways that we get that into market, either through our own in-house brands, or we'll drop them through brands that we support. And then that's a really good way to test to see if, hey, like the consumer wants it, is that now ready for the next level of the video game? So we really trust and work closely with our breeder community to continue to just filter in things that are interesting, that maybe haven't been tested for commercialization, that we then provide data back, and it's a really good kind of fluid partnership. So
thank you so much for joining the show today. This has been an absolute pleasure, and can't wait to continue the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. It's been great to be here. Thank you so much.